Chateau de Purnon's elegant architecture is all about symmetry and harmony, straight lines and simplicity. What was done on one side of the chateau was replicated on the other. It was all intended to be pleasing to the eye. Sometimes the doors are mock or the shutters conceal a false window. This was not done to evade window tax as some people may believe. At Purnon, all of these devices were designed to preserve the exquisite harmony and balance of the chateau's facades. But look closely. Why are some of the shutters divided into three parts? What secrets do they conceal inside the chateau? This week, come with us as we explore Chateau de Purnon's hidden levels and the secret staircases that access them. In French, they're called entresols, literally between the floors. And at Purnon, half a dozen rooms lie hidden between our ground floor and the first floor. The ceilings on our ground floor are more than 4.5 metres high, or just over 15 feet. But as soon as we arrived at Purnon, we noticed that in several parts of the chateau's ground floor, the ceilings were, strangely, much lower, just under 2.5 metres or around 8 feet. To understand this, we need to take our mind back to life in a large aristocratic family at the end of the 18th century. A noble family employed dozens of people to keep them comfortable. In the chateau basement and the outbuildings, there were cooks, stable hands, carriage drivers, gardeners. But inside the chateau, an army of staff tended to the family's every needs. They helped them get dressed in the morning, they lit their fires, their candles, served at the table, emptied their chambered pots, and was there day and night. But they had to be unobtrusive and invisible. These entresols are where they lived and worked. This entresol has the most precarious of staircases coming up to it, but to give you an idea of size, we are probably 2.5 metres square. The ceiling height is just above my height, and so I can stand properly. I don't need to crouch in here. You can see that the bell is still in place. This is the original 18th century bell. So this entresol was actually for the maid of Madame de la Montbarrasset. Now, Madame de la Montbarrasset was the Marquis's mother, so the whole family lived here, the mother included, and she's in quite a separate wing to the rest of the family. She's on the ground floor, and so this entresol sits above her dressing room. Her bedroom has full 4.5 metre height ceilings, and then behind it is a beautiful dressing room with original 18th century wallpaper. And this terribly complicated, difficult staircase to get up arrives here. And so her maid here had quite a small room, but she had her own wardrobe, which is very unusual. She also had windows that go to the west of the chateau, and they're double windows. But this original bell was rung from down in Madame's bedroom. Makes quite a piercing sound. And it's important to remember while we're looking at these entresols that not all of the maids and valets that attended to the family members had an entresol. So we have quite a lot of very secret, discreet corridors that lead to rooms that are not entresols, that were maids and valets. Bedrooms, and these are adjacent to the family members' bedrooms. So some of them were in these entresols and some of them had rooms that were actually adjacent to the bedrooms. But I'm going to make my way down this terribly narrow, steep staircase and show you the next one. This is the largest of Purnon's entresols, and it is, as you can see, currently housing our very large collection of 18th and 19th century chamber pots. And when we arrived, this room was being used as a laundry, and it had been used as a laundry for some time. The walls were black with soot. There was a fireplace in the corner where water had been heated and used in the washing process. The original purpose of this room, however, may not have been for a laundry, because when we arrived at Purnon, you may remember we were extremely lucky to have intact the original Chateau archives, and these were immense archives and proved to be a real treasure trove for us for understanding the layout of each of the floors of the Chateau, and that is aiding us in the restoration of the Chateau. But this room was actually marked as a chambre de domestique, so it was originally intended to be a maid's room, and whether it had been a maid's room and then was altered to become a laundry later, or whether it started out as a laundry and remained a laundry, we do not know. But it is currently being used as our current laundry, although if you've been following the progress of our restoration of the interior of the Chateau, you will know that this is not going to be our future laundry, because that is elsewhere on the first floor of the Chateau. But we have grand plans for this room, and we cannot wait to share that with you soon. This entresol is accessed from a staircase located behind Purnon's salle à manger, so the Chateau's dining room, and next to that room is actually the Marquis and the Marquis's bedroom. So this entresol is positioned very close to their bedroom, and on the original 18th century plans it's marked as the bedroom for the lackey, and so that is the manservant who would have been without doubt the Marquis's valet. And so this room actually has windows in it. It has windows that go out to the south, so it gets the afternoon light and the view out over the park. The ceiling height is the same as the other entresols. It's quite small, but you still have quite a lot of room to move around. This is actually a room that we are currently working on. You can see that we've just started to put electricity into here, and this room we had dreams of having it finished before winter actually. I'm not sure if we're going to get there or not, but this is going to be made into a winter snug. It's a small room, we can keep it warm, it can be comfortable, because during winter the rest of the Chateau can be a pretty uncomfortable place to live. And even though now we do have a heating system in the section of the Chateau that we live, this room will stay nice and warm because it also has a radiator from that heating system up here. And so its future is as our snug, and so it will be a really beautiful place for us to retreat to and be comfortable and warm. But let's see if we can get it finished in time for winter or not. I'm not sure. We've got a huge amount going on at the moment, and we don't seem to be getting a lot of time to work on our interior projects, but the fact that the power has gone in is a very good step forward. We'll see how we go. This entresol is accessed by the most lovely of staircases for Purnon's entresols, and it comes directly up from the marquise dressing room, and so we can very confidently say that this entresol was for the maid of the marquise. On the original 18th century plans, it's marked as chambre de domestique. It may have actually been a shared bedroom. It's possible that this was also where Adelaide, the daughter of the marquis and the marquise's maid, stayed. Who knows? Or it could possibly be that the maid was shared between mother and daughter. In the staircase is the original 18th century bell. The bell was accessed from the marquis's dressing room, and then this room actually is interesting because even though it's only the maid's room, Purnon's architect was still working with symmetry in these entresols, and you can see here that the doors are completely symmetric on either side of the room. This door here is for a cupboard, and the second door, as you know, is for access. At the moment, this room has proved to be incredibly helpful for the restoration work that we've been doing in the ensuite on the first floor directly above this entresol, and it's meant that we can access under the floor for water arrival and evacuation without touching the original 18th century floorboards, which means that we've been able to retain those beautiful floorboards with all their character. It's the ensuite where we use that incredible Farrow wallpaper from the Purnon Papers collection. It was a wallpaper that was originally discovered here at the Chateau and now up in that ensuite. And the future of this room, who knows really? At the moment it's proving incredibly valuable for access to the first floor. Once we are confident that we've got everything we need to get in under the floor there, we will create a hatch and close this off. But it may just always be a storage room. Its location close to the salle à manger means it's very helpful for additional furniture for the dining room. So maybe that's its future. We'll see, we're yet to decide. This entresol has 2 rooms in it and is accessed via a secret cupboard in the marquis's bureau, and so given its location it certainly wouldn't have been used for accommodating domestic staff. In fact, the 18th century plans, this side of the plan for the entresol level is too degraded, so we don't actually have the original plans to indicate to us what these 2 rooms might have been used for. But given their location, it's unlikely they were used as bedrooms. It's more likely that this was some space that the Marquis used himself. The first room has quite a lot of storage for fencing equipment, horse tack, there's magazines, and then this room has cupboards where we've been storing various finds, candle holders, bells, lamps, all those sorts of things. And so it could have been used as a workshop, so a repair room. It could have been used for storage, but unlikely it was used for accommodation. And for us at the moment, it's probably likely that these will become our archive rooms. And so there you have it, a tour of Purnon's entresols, hidden spaces in between the first floor and the ground floor here at the Chateau, used to house domestic staff or for various other uses which maybe are not quite clear to us yet, but lovely atmospheric little spaces and a really interesting insight into life in the 18th century and the divide between the family and their domestic staff who were here to serve them.
One of the questions we get asked most often is, what was life really like at Purnon just after its construction at the end of the 18th century? And I think these entresols, these levels between the levels, or these mezzanine levels, really give us an insight into answering that question. Because really there were two sets of lives being lived at Chateau de Purnon. There was a set of lives being lived by the noble family, by their guests, by people of really some wealth and with aristocratic titles. And then there was a totally separate life being lived by the people who served them and who worked for them. And it must have been a very difficult life. And the two lives really blended in perhaps seamlessly with each other. And it's really quite interesting because when the entresols were constructed, they were constructed to make sure that the domestic staff, that the working staff here at Purnon were always in close contact with the aristocratic family that they served, but at the same time, they were invisible. And I think that's a really interesting insight into answering that question as to what life was really like here at Chateau de Purnon. And when we first arrived, we hadn't even seen some of these entresols. They were hidden behind doors that looked like cupboards. They were up rickety staircases that were not very accessible. And so one of the great things about that is that they were rooms that had really been undisturbed for many, many decades, and they contained some of the best treasures that we found. Not necessarily things of great monetary value, but things that were very, very old and stuff that really gave us an insight into how life was lived at the end of the 18th century and in the 19th century, because those spaces really hadn't been disturbed.
And I think the other unexpected thing about the entresols is how practical they've been for us actually now while we're restoring the insides, or while we're starting to plan the restoration of the insides as well, because they have given us access to the first floor without disrupting the original 18th century floorboards. And so for all our water arrival and evacuation and electrical work and so on, it's actually been really practical and quite a gift to have the access via them. So they're very interesting, aren't they, Purnon's entresols? And as always, if you'd like to follow the restoration of Chateau de Purnon more closely, we post frequent updates on Instagram.
We post an exclusive weekly video for our Patreon members and for our YouTube members. And this week, for the exclusive video, we're taking a closer look at Purnon's incredible Lebanese cedars and how we're planting for the future to protect the park in the centuries to come.
Otherwise, just hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and we'll keep you updated here.